And tonight on PM Express, a conversation about concerns, a number of them raised since school reopened and since the President Akufo-Addo updated us on our COVID situation. So, COVID-19 reopening of schools, the new variant effect, and you will be amazed that mass disregard for COVID-19 protocols, especially by students returning to school, is one of the things we observed in our various schools as schools reopen today. As President Akufo-Addo announces security clampdown on flouters of the COVID-19 rules. Now, from last night, we've had some updates from the president and some worrying details from the president's address. Active cases moved from 900 last week to 1,924, more than double the figures from last week. 200 new cases daily, we are told. Treatment centers have gone from 0 patients to full, and we're being told that in the event that the issue gets out of hand, we may not have facilities or beds to treat these patients. Severe cases have moved from 18 last week to 120. I need you to monitor these figures clearly. 33 critical cases compared to 2 weeks ago when there was no critical case. So from 0 to 33. Deaths have gone up from 338 to 352. A lot of addition there. Those severely ill. And this is one worrying trend that people are beginning to get scared about, that those severely ill are youthful persons without underlying health issues, which is surprising to health experts, because we know the COVID-19 that we've been living with, we know that it is people who have underlying conditions who are mostly prone to have it, or who are the ones who should really check themselves. But in this case, we're seeing people who do not have underlying health conditions who are getting and who are severely ill, and that is very worrying. 13 out of 16 regions have recorded active cases, and if the rate continues, our health experts tell us that the infrastructure can't contain the load that will be on the facilities. Election, Christmas, and New Year activities are being blamed for the rise, and you can see that it's just amazing that we've found ourselves here. So that is what we've had to face. We're told there's a new variant. We do not know what this new variant does. How does it mutate? There are a lot of things we need to know about this new variant as we reopen schools and as we begin to study how the new variant mutates. I have all the people who have answers to these questions that may be bothering your mind with this new variant and the reopening of schools. I'll introduce my guest to you after this break. Stay with me. Many thanks for joining us on PM Express. We're discussing the reopening of schools. We're talking about COVID-19 and the new variant effect. And we're looking at what has happened and the reason why we've had increased numbers in cases. Our active cases now standing almost 2,000 from 900 from last week. Professor Gordon Awandare is West African, he's the director of the West African Center for Cell Biology of Infectious Pathogens at the University of Ghana. Dr. John Amoesi is group leader, Global Health and Infectious Diseases Research Group at KCCR and lecturer at the Global Health Department at KNUST. I'm also joined by Philippa Larson, who is president of the Ghana National Association of Teachers, NATS, and a concerned parent, Salih Fudabre, who is also himself a coordinator of the Institute of Islamic Studies, the JHS section at NIMA, is also joining us. Quickly, let me begin with you, Salifo Dabre, who's a concerned parent yourself. I remember when the SHS 3 and 2 students were made to resume school, you had concerns with how the protocols were not being respected. What are your observations first day as your ward resumed school today? Positive?
Well, thank you so much, Aisha, for having me. Today, when school resumed, I was at the Accra Girls Senior High School, where my daughter is in Form 3, that I believe she's now in a final year. I was in the school this morning around 8:30, 9 thereabout. I realized that the students have really impressed me, together with some other parents who were there. But almost all the students that we met were on their nose masks, beautifully dressed in the school attire. Almost everybody. Some were even having sanitizers in their hands. We have short bottle sanitizers. They were having it in their hands. So we tried to question some of them. Who provided them the sanitizers? Others were saying they brought them from home. Others were saying the school was able to provide them some nose masks and sanitizers. So I believe generally this morning at our campus, but the solution was good. That is, if you ask me personally as a parent, I'm satisfied with what I saw on the campuses of our campus this morning. That is when I visited the school to find out the first day of the opening. I mean, what is happening there. So generally, I'm okay with the situation.
But can you say same for the Institute of Islamic Studies where you work?
No, it is not the same. At the Institute of Islamic Studies, you know, the school is under renovation. The whole structure is under renovation. So when the students and then the pupils reported this morning, well, there was disorder. The students reported they don't even know what to see. Like I said, the school is under renovation. Then they were standing, some of them were asked to use the mosque that is attached to the school. So it's a spacious mosque. But you realize that the students themselves, they are adamant going to sit on the floor, that is on the mat in the mosque. They don't want to do that. So they were standing, some of them were hovering around the mosque and then other areas of the school. None of them was using nose masks. None of them, virtually none of them. So when I tried to find out from the head, well, she was telling me that government has supplied enough nose masks for them. But because there was no classroom for them to sit, so that the school can even supply them with this nose mask, the school has withheld the nose mask. So the people and the students, none of them, virtually none of them, was wearing any nose mask. And then they were crumbled together. We tried to tell them that they should know all protocols as far as COVID-19 is concerned. You'll be surprised, Aisha, that some of them don't even know what is happening. They are in Nima, in Accra here, they don't know what is happening. And you expect children from remote areas, why they even see cars passing their villages once in a week? How? I don't know. What will happen to some of them? They were telling me they don't know anything. And then others were even telling me our parents say they don't have money to purchase those passports. Goodness. So I was even surprised. So this morning, at the Institute of Islamic Studies in Nima, the whole thing, it was in a disorder situation. But we asked them that tomorrow they should report back to school. We'll try to make some classes available, though not completed. It is still under construction, available for them to see, so that we'll be able to supply some of the PPEs that government has supplied to the school, to the students, so that they can use it when they go home and even in school. One disturbing thing is that they only use their nose mask when they are in school. But the moment they leave the premises of the school, they remove the nose mask. They are free now. Some of them, they throw their nose mask on the floor, their floor, and they go for it when it's dirty. I mean, so surprising, so surprising. So this is what is happening, or what we have observed in Nima this morning, pertaining this very school. That is the Institute of Islamic Studies in Nima, at the heart of Accra.
Okay, Salifo, let me bring in Philippa Larson here, who is president of NAT. Prior to the reopening of schools, government assured that there will be provision of PPEs, i.e. nose masks, Veronica buckets, tissue paper, soap, and the likes. Has that happened? What's your own day one assessment of the schools reopening? Hello, Philippa.
viewers. Hello.
Yes, I can hear you loud and
Hello.
clear. Yes.
Okay. Hello, Aisha.
Yes, Philippa, you're on PM Express, and
Hello.
I'm asking that prior to the reopening of the schools, government assured that there will be provision of PPEs, and I want to find out from you whether that has happened. I mean, generally, what has your assessment of the schools reopening been? I mean, day one.
Yes, Aisha. Let me say good evening to your cherished viewers. Can you hear me now?
Very loud and clear.
Can you hear me? Thank you very much. And so before the reopening of schools, there were stakeholder consultations and proposals were made and government agreed. Let me state that the distribution or the supply of the logistics has commenced. Unfortunately, because of the large numbers of the schools, not all the logistics have gotten to all the schools. And so you realize that some schools have gotten some items. Some schools have not gotten anything at all. The items are still on the way, depending on the district, the community where you find yourself. But this morning, let me state that I was a bit disappointed, especially because I met a lot of children. You know, I stepped out of the house. I wanted to visit the community and see exactly what is happening. And you realize that out of about 10 people that you meet, pupils, only one or two will be in a nose mask. And I believe that this is where, as parents, you have to come in to support, because I have always felt that all Ghanaians are all stakeholders of education. And so from the house to the school, where the child is supposed to go and pick his or her items, that child cannot go without a nose mask. In the new normal, nose mask has become part of our dressing. And that is where I felt a bit disappointed that some parents did not supply their wards with the nose masks from the home to the schools.
But would you fault every parent because government promised that it was going to provide some of these PPEs for the students?
Aisha, yes, government promised, but government didn't promise to give the nose mask to the children in their various homes. They had to pick them at the school level. And so between the home and the school, what happens? Where the president has stated categorically that now the security agencies are going to enforce the wearing of nose masks and all that. And so as a parent,
Okay, so we'll try and get Philippa Larson back on the line to tell us more. But quickly, before I bring in John Amwesi, let me come back to you, Salifu. What can you say of the PPEs that was promised by government? Did your school receive any?
Have been supplied with the PPEs. It is with the headmistress of the school, and then because the school is under renovation, the pupils and the students have not even gotten class to sit. For that matter, the headmistress was unable to supply the PPEs that has been given to the school by government. Actually, it has been supplied to the school.
Okay.
But as I speak now, nothing has been given out to the pupils and the students.
So as you saw today, you are expecting to see same tomorrow, right?
Yes, we expect a change tomorrow. But that's notwithstanding, Aisha. Let us wait for the government. Nose mask, I believe parents will be able to afford nose mask, at least 2 nose masks, one ventilated one for these kids to take it to school. But children will come to school, they rely solely on what the school will provide to them. Instead of parents taking that precautions, supply our own children with the PPS, waiting for what government will do. Okay, let's assume we've not given them the PPS, they went to the school, government has not supplied the school with PPS. So what will happen now? See, so I'm urging my colleague parents, they should try and get some PPS for the children once coming to school. When the school authorities also supply them I think it's okay for them. But
let me bring in Dr. John Amoesi here. Doc, it's been very traumatizing since the president informed the nation of a spike in the country's active cases. I mean, from 900 to 1,924, it's no joke. And we are also being told of severe cases moving from 18 to 120. That is scary. Critical cases from 0 to 33. You must be worried as a health professional when you hear that many pupils, students, and even teachers threw the wearing of masks to the dogs on the first day of reopening.
No, absolutely, Aisha, and good evening to you and to everyone listening. I think we are in a very dire situation. I think the president minced no words. Yesterday, he presented the grim facts, and he was really stern. If you watched his body language, he actually appeared a bit agitated himself. And he made a statement which I thought was very key, and I thought was very deliberate, knowing him also to be an astute diplomat who once headed our foreign ministry. He said, our healthcare infrastructure will be overwhelmed. Now, when you hear those words, healthcare infrastructure will be overwhelmed, this suggests that the situation is worse than it appears to our eyes. And I'm happy that he, as a leader of this nation, minced no words. We are in dire straits, and I can tell you, if we do not see a change in the situation within the next 10 days to 2 weeks, then we will be heading for some kind of a lockdown or a dire situation. I will have only two options if we do not see a change in 10 days to 2 weeks. It means that we'll be in for a rough ride. And the two options are these. Either we jump off the ride, maybe break a leg, which we can always fix. This is what I call a lockdown, because lockdowns are so painful. They set the country's economy backward. But at least, as the president himself said, we know how to fix economies, but we don't know how to bring back the dead to life. So that's what I call, jump off the ride, break a leg, you can fix it. Or we stay on the ride until it derails, and then we break our necks. Other countries have tried this kind of thing, heading for herd immunity. The UK tried it, and they're still not recovered from that wrong decision that they made. The same goes for Sweden and a bunch of others. It tells you that decisions need to be taken quickly. China, on the other hand, we see how the recent economic figures released, I think yesterday or today, if I'm right, suggests that their economies actually grew, whereas others in the world are shrinking because they took very stringent measures early. And all I'm saying is that we need to continue all the measures that have been preached, especially the nose mask, the hand washing, social distancing, to the best that we can. Monitor the situation for about a week, 10 days, maximum 2 weeks. If we don't see any change, then we really have got to tighten the screws.
Interesting, but there's been suggestions, and I want to pick your thought on this one, that we should have held on with the reopening of schools as we study the new variant and also assessing whether it has migrated into our communities to be better informed about the handling of this new variant. You agree?
No, I think there can be many schools of thought here, but we need to ground our decisions in the evidence, both in terms of the science, the biology of the disease, as well as the history that we have to date. Now, the decision to reopen the schools, I know, was taken way before this surge in cases. Of course, if you know the situation is bad, nothing should stop you from changing your position or doing something different. However, we have been here before. The schools reopened for the JHS 3s and a couple of final year students. I think we handled this beautifully. We didn't see any significant spike in the cases, even though schools were reopened at that time, which suggests that if we do the right things, or we know how to do this and do it well, if we do it right, we should be able to avoid massive collateral damage. So what I would suggest is, with the reopening of the schools, we should not kid ourselves. There will be some kind of a price to pay. Less the children themselves, but more the adults who will be exposed to children who may be bringing a virus home to a parent or to a grandparent. And this means that we need to take specific actions. And I do realize that the president did make mention of some of these, the ramping up of testing for early detection so that people can be isolated and treated, the preparation of treatment centers and isolation centers. And I think really importantly, and this is something I've been saying for the past several months, the need for us to have sentinel sites where we are sampling on a frequent, regular basis to really, really measure our rate of spread. Now, specifically to the new variant, I always said that it would be foolhardy almost to think that this new variant was not with us in the country, but we had no evidence. Thankfully, Professor Wandari and colleagues have been able to confirm this via their sequencing, and they did this using samples of travelers, and he will speak more to this, I suppose. It should tell you that this has been with us for a long time. In fact, these variants started being detected somewhere in August to September, where in Denmark they detected some kind of a variant in minks. Minks are like a grass cutter type of animal. Then in December 14th to be precise, in the UK there was this variant of concern which was noted. And then we have the variant also in South Africa. Variants have also been detected in Nigeria just from some random samples that were sequenced. It should tell you that there are variants all over. What really matters is the fact that these variants increase the rate of spread. In fact, what we call the attack rate, the rate at which the virus will spread, is about 10 to 70-fold faster with this new variant. It doesn't make people particularly sicker, all right? It is not more dangerous in the sense that it wouldn't be resistant to any treatment or anything, but you are more likely to get the disease. And automatically, when the disease is spreading, it means that the pool from which this disease is able to attack will increase, and so your numbers of people who will be severely ill and also will die will go up. And this is what has been seen. Exactly the same pattern we are seeing now in Ghana has been replicated already in the UK and several other countries, in South Africa, in Zambia. The picture is no different. In actual fact, it's worse in many other parts of Africa. So it is really a time to sit up and keep our eyes on the ball, measure our situation, and take decisive action as soon as we realize that this is going to be heading for a neck-breaking kind of situation. We don't have to wait until we get there. And I just wanted to mention one more thing, Aisha, that this variant of concern, very interestingly, and this really puts the whole school reopening thing into perspective, it really took off in the 11 to 18-year-old groups, all right, in the UK. And it took hold of that group first because they were going to school, all right? And then it accelerated in adults, which is trying to say that with the reopening of schools, we actually face a situation where there can be an accelerated spread of this new variant, which means that we need to put in place these extra measures. But I will refer to our early experience with reopening schools for the JHS3s and how we did that pretty well and did not result in any significant increase. If we can replicate that, of course, again, keeping our eyes on the ball and making that difficult decision as soon as we realize that this is heading for a neck-breaking situation.
But Dr. Amoisi, don't forget that in that one, we knew the mutation of that virus. This is a new variant, and that's where I bring Professor Gordon Awundari. Prof, how different is this new variant from the one we know?
Thank you, and good evening. We are just now finding the variant locally. So we'll have to see how it behaves over here. But as my colleague John has beautifully described, we know how it has behaved in the UK. We know that it seems to be able to, affect younger people more than the original strain, in the sense that the original strain, many young people who had it were asymptomatic. In the new strain, it appears to be causing more, symptomatic disease in younger people than the previous one. All these are yet to be confirmed, and I always caution that what we're seeing in the UK may not necessarily be the same behavior here, because as we know, the original variant did not quite behave the same way in other parts of the world as it did in Africa. Overall, in Africa, there was more asymptomatic infections than symptomatic compared to other places. And so we don't know if this one is going to follow a different trend. But so far, it seems like this second wave in Ghana seems that there's more hospitalization, there's more impact on younger people. We have some of the deaths being young people without pre-existing condition. we have to now sequence the virus locally and see whether these cases of people dying that we wouldn't have expected them to die from the virus are these cases as specifically associated with the new variants. And then in terms of the younger people, getting hospitalized, are these also associated with the new variant? And the rate of spread, are we seeing the surge because the rate of spread is faster than the original variant that we had? All these we have to figure out in the next few weeks when we start to aggressively sequence local samples.
So at what stage are you with your research, and with where you are you picking signals as to what really is causing the youthful persons to be severely ill?
Well, we don't know yet. That's what I was explaining, that we have to now find out whether it's associated with the variant. What we've done so far, let me just give you a background. So you recall that 2 weeks ago when the president spoke, he made the decree that all passengers coming in who test positive, they would be quarantined, and then their samples will be sequenced. So we received some of those samples to sequence, and we've done the first batch of them, and that's what the president talked about. So we detected the variant in these travelers, and it was interesting that nearly half of the travelers we tested or we sequenced, the travelers' viruses that we sequenced, nearly half of them had either the UK variant or the South African variant.
Wow.
Which means that these variants are really very common now. And the other interesting thing is that many of the travelers were coming from other African countries. They were not coming from the UK. I think only 2 of them were coming from the UK. All the others were coming from other African countries, which means that the variants are all over the place now. So it's likely we have it here. We just have to confirm because in science we don't guess, so we have to confirm. So we're going to sequence samples that have been taken from local infections, and then we're going to see what kind of variants are here. And then we can compare that with the clinical data and see whether we can match variants with clinical disease presentations. That's at that point that we can be able to start to make some suggestions about why we are seeing this phenomenon or the other. But as of now, we're just getting the information from our colleagues at the hospitals, the doctors. They are telling us what they are seeing. We now have to provide the sequences to try to tease out what variants are associated with what types of conditions.
Has gotten to the community level yet?
Sorry, I missed your question.
Do we know whether the infection, the new variant, has gotten to the community yet?
We don't know yet, so we'll find out in the next week or so. Okay. Because those that we sequenced so far are from people who just arrived. Okay, and when they arrived, they were quarantined. So if this was done properly, then they were contained.
Okay.
But we don't know if others came earlier who had the virus, the new variants, and were allowed to go home and give it to their relatives and so on and so forth. So we're now sequencing people who were infected locally. And then that would inform us as to whether the virus is now a local phenomenon, whether it's here and it's whether it's the one that's associated with most of the cases or not. We'll find that out in the next week or two. Okay.
Let me bring in Philippa Lassen here. We had some initial complaints from parents about monies being asked to pay so teachers can extend time on the school premises and actually ensure each child is taken care of, even after closing, until they've been picked out of the school, and which some parents have refused to pay. What reports are you getting from the teachers, and are they satisfied with arrangements so far and well prepared for the job ahead?
Aisha, we don't have that information. I'm surprised to hear this.
Okay. that
We don't have this information.
that some schools were asking for parents to pay for an extended time so that the teachers can take care of the children even after closing until their parents have picked them.
Aisha, I'm saying we do not have this information. No, we don't have this information.
Okay, but what reports are you getting from your teachers? Are they satisfied with the arrangements so far? And are they well prepared for the job ahead?
As for teachers, we are well prepared for the job ahead. The only thing is we are expecting the children to be in school. All the items that are needed to be given them or have to be given them. We go through the normal lessons in the various classrooms. And then in the classrooms, we have to observe the social distancing protocol, make sure we have all the logistics, and then we practice all the protocols to observe safety and protection in our schools. So as teachers, we are ever ready, and we need all the logistics to be supplied to the schools. And like I said earlier, we expect parents. You see, this reopening is for the whole school. It's not the one that we did for the candidates and the second years. And so the number is huge.
Yeah.
So definitely you expect that the supply may delay in some areas, depending on where you find yourself in the community, in the district, or in the region. As at the close of day today, we had information that a lot of the items were still on their way to the district and the schools. And so the concern here is for parents to support. And like I said earlier, all Ghanaian citizens are not spectators, and all of us are stakeholders of education. And so we expect parents to make sure that before the child leaves the house or the home for the school, in the new normal, the mask has become part of our dressing. And so we have to make sure our children and our wards are properly dressed before they leave the house for school.
Dr. Mwesi, what's your own interpretation of the situation we find ourselves with the severely ill being youthful persons without underlying health issues?
No, thanks for that, Aisha. And I think Professor Wandare also beautifully explained the science behind our thinking. And well, as a public health person, also as a physician, I like to draw inferences from the information that we have and draw extensions to the best possible in order to make decisions, even though we don't have all the information. So he was perfectly right. We do not yet know whether it is in the community or not. But for me, it is pretty clear that the probability of it being in the community is high. And we can almost, if we should be doing anything, we should be treating this as though it is already within the community. The latest WHO figures that show the spread of the UK variant, at least as of January 6th, suggested that it was not present in Africa at all. This is barely less than 2 weeks ago, just about 10 days ago. And today we know it's present in several African countries. It certainly did not just appear in African countries over the past 10 days. It just tells you that we were just late to see or to find this variant. So I, as a public health person, would like to presume that it is already present and we should be treating it as such. Now, the picture that we saw in the UK with the rapidly increasing number of cases, then hospitalizations, then ICU or intensive care admissions, and then deaths seems to be playing out in the same way here. And this is why I believe the president was so stern in his address yesterday and definitely had a worried look on his face, and rightly so. He did communicate both in word and in body language the gravity of the situation. We know people who have lost their lives, younger people. So it's clear that this is not business as usual. It's not like the previous the older variant. And very quickly, both in the UK and then in South Africa, this mutated virus has taken over. And now we're finding it in more numbers of people than even the older version. And Professor Wandare also mentioned this, that they were surprised to find that almost about half of the travelers had either the UK variant or the South Africa variant. So that should tell you that it is actually soon will become the dominant one. And if it does, which is most likely the case, then it means that it's going to spread much faster, and a lot of our younger people will be likely to fall ill. Do we have the capacity to absorb them? And this is what the president made mention of. He said our healthcare infrastructure will be overwhelmed. That is, if we do not do the things that we're supposed to do. And when we say healthcare infrastructure is overwhelmed, what that means is that we are not able to contain any longer. And we do not want this kind of situation in the country. And of course, when we talk about younger people getting it, it doesn't mean that the younger people are more susceptible to get it per se. It is by virtue of the behavior of younger people, their level of interaction and movement, that makes them more likely to get a virus that is highly transmissible. The older folk are less mobile, less active, perhaps a bit more cautious than the younger folk. So it means that if the younger people are suffering, the older people will suffer even more. Unfortunately, the global media has presented this in a way that suggests that, oh, this variant is for the younger people. But no, it is only that this variant is attacking younger people as well. But the older folk are actually suffering even more. If you look at the mortality figures, they are actually much higher than even before.
Okay.
So it's really a dire situation, and we need to put this in perspective and understand it that way.
What is the rate of infection in children? Have we seen an increase in that too?
Well, what I can tell you, of course, we have not yet measured this in Ghana, but what I can tell you is that it is 10 to 70% higher in terms of the rate of spread among children and, in fact, the general population, at least in the UK. Now, look at 10 to 70%. That's really wide. That's really wide. And it's actually a function of the levels of mobility. So it's the levels of mobility in different parts of the country that will ultimately influence the rate of spread. The virus has a propensity, has the ability to spread. But if nobody's moving to spread it, no matter how highly spreadable it is going nowhere, because
that is why I am happy that you talked about if we do the right things, we may be able to contain the situation. But in this case, with regards to the children going back to school, do you trust that the children, the kids, some toddlers, will be able to do things right?
No, I mean, we're not going to kid ourselves. We know the truth. All right. I'm right here in Kumasi. I observed what I saw. What I saw with my own eyes suggested that this is going to be really difficult. I happened to be in a simple suit today all the way. I set off about 4 a.m. in the morning and came back in the afternoon back to Kumasi. I was just observing the schools by the roadside coming from the central region back into the Ashanti region. And look, it's very clear that caution has been thrown to the wind, even among the older students. I am on the university campus here, and I did see our security folk on the university campus cautioning the students and pointing out those who are not wearing masks. So even among university students, we've got to have our security personnel and others remind students to wear their masks. So bringing that down to toddlers, it's going to be really difficult. So I did mention that they are going to bring this home. This is guaranteed. But we need to prepare for this adequately by ramping up our testing so that those who are not necessarily sick, but those who are infected can be detected quickly and isolated so they don't spread it faster. And then those who are sick can also have a place to be treated really quickly so that hopefully they don't progress to severe illness and then to death.
When I return from this break, we'll be talking about what to look out for as going forward, what we should be expecting, because the nightclubs are still operating, the pubs are operating, funerals, weddings, parties are still being held, and a number of parties are ongoing. We'll look out for what to do as individuals and even at the government level. Stay with me. Welcome back to PM Express. We're looking at the reopening of schools and the new variant. What are the measures put in place to curb the spread of the disease? How does this new variant behave, and what should the public and government do to contain this whole spread? Now, Doc, before we went on that break, we were talking about how we do not trust that we can be able to do things right. Definitely there will be some fallouts. But what do you envisage going forward? The nightclubs, the pubs are still operating, funeral weddings, parties are still being organized. The kids are back in school and our facilities are already full.
Well, I think the answer is right in our faces. I did mention that this new variant, its special quality, its ability to spread much faster, doesn't necessarily cause more severe disease, but it just can spread faster. What this suggests is that the spread is closely tied to levels of mobility. Everything must be done to limit non-essential, whatever that may mean to different people, mobility. It would be really prudent to address the nightclubs, to address the cinemas, which, okay, already closed, and the parties, and the non-essential meetings, and several other activities, which could be done in a different way or could be postponed. These are what we call super spreader events. People come together in close proximity for a period of time. They exchange viruses, if I put it that way, and then they go back and this spread. So it's explosive in nature. And the more of these events that you have, all mixing with each other, somebody goes to a wedding and then goes from there to a funeral, and then goes from there to church the following day. So within a couple of days, you can have a completely explosive situation. And it will be really prudent right now to address some of these activities, curtail them, and allow us to watch things for the next couple of weeks to determine our next step. But I would rather that we cut down on these activities decisively as soon as possible.
Prof. Andari, what's your advice to the public, especially as we are told that this new variant has a higher transmission rate?
Yes, so I want to echo exactly what John said. There are two levels to this. The government level and then the individual level. And I think at the government level, I was quite surprised that the president didn't put a ban on funerals and weddings, now. People will always be irresponsible. So if you give them the chance, they'll do it. I think some people still go ahead and have big weddings and big funerals, even in the midst of this crisis. So you need to just put a ban on these things. We shouldn't expect that people will behave properly, because we've seen that doesn't happen. Over the Christmas, we also that you cannot rely on people to make those decisions wisely. So I was surprised that they didn't put a ban on funerals and weddings, or at least restrict the number to 100 like before. At the individual level, I would say that let's be a little bit considerate of our fellow citizens. If you have a wedding or a funeral planned within the next 1 month, please postpone. Please postpone or reduce, just limit it to, if you have to do it, limit it to less than 100 people and get it done. But it's best to postpone. I think if we all pull back our social interactions 1 month continuously, we would all see that the wave will go down, and then we can sort of come back out a little bit. So the longer we for lack of a better word, live freely or misbehave, the longer this current crisis lasts. If we all pulled back like we did earlier in the pandemic when there was a lockdown, we would see that the cases will go down rapidly over the next 1 month, and then we can resume some level of normalcy. So that would be at the individual level. Then we have to hold each other accountable. I always tell students that if you are sitting with fellow students and any of them is not wearing a mask, you should insist that they put on a mask, because they are the ones who are likely to be carrying the virus because they don't wear a mask in front of you. It means they don't wear a mask anywhere. So they are likely to be carrying the virus. Maybe they're just not showing symptoms. So you have to insist that people should wear masks around you. And there should be no fear or shame in demanding that if you're going to talk to me, you should wear a mask. Or if you're going to be a meeting with me, you should wear a mask. And so we need to do that. I would also suggest that for the schools, we should do some type of random sampling. You know, many young people would not show symptoms, but as John mentioned, they may take the disease home and give it to their grandparents. And we cannot afford to test all the children all the time. But if we do random sampling in each school, let's say every other day, let's take 20 children from each school at random and test them. If we keep doing this, if there's an outbreak, we will detect it early enough before it takes over the whole school. So I would really advocate that at the district level, let's plan to do some random sampling in the schools, just so that we can be monitoring what's going on. So that if there's an outbreak, you can pick it up. If you sample properly, if there's an outbreak, you pick it up early before, you know, a large number of the students get infected, and then you have to shut down the whole school. So those are the few things that we have to do. But personal responsibility is key now. And I really wish that the government would put a ban on big funerals and big weddings for the next 1 month.
Okay. Salifu, there are doubts we can maintain the standards as the schools have reopened. As a parent, what are you looking forward to?
What we are looking forward to as a concerned parent, we try to talk to the managers of our kids. One, they should try and sit down with the kids and talk to them about COVID. You'll be surprised that when you ask the people or the students, most of them, they cannot tell you what is COVID. They cannot tell you.
But isn't that also a responsibility for the parents to be teaching those kids at home what COVID is and how to even wear the mask?
Most parents themselves don't know what is COVID. They don't know.
Really?
They don't know the implications. They don't know, my sister. So we ask the managers of the kids, sit down with the kids, let them know what is COVID. And secondly, try to introduce to them the use of hand sanitizers. Let them know that in school, they cannot share their spoon, their bowls, and their water jars with their colleagues. Wear the mask when playing with their colleagues as well. We try to let their managers tell these kids. They should let them also know that they cannot use their pencils, their pens, everything with their colleagues. And also, they should provide them with at least 2 well-ventilated nose masks daily. You'll be surprised that a kid was wearing a nose mask today, just outside our school. I was asking that kid, for how long have you been using this nose mask? He told me he's been using the mask for almost 2 weeks now. It means this mask, this girl has been using for 2 weeks. Are the parents not in the house for them to check what this girl has been using as a form of nose mask? It means the parents themselves, like I said earlier, don't know even what is happening. They've left their ward or their kids to the mercy of whatever will be happening to them. So we are urging our colleague parents that they should put their eyes down. They should try to watch what the kids need to do at home. They should not let them go mixing with people. But you'll be surprised. Even in our own mosque, not even the lead imam will be using nose mask. Most mosques, when you enter in our communities, about 90 to 95% don't use nose mask, the face mask. They don't go by the protocols of the COVID at all.
Okay, so yes.
Unless when you go to the extent of people tell you that, forget about those that they are telling you about COVID, they only need your money. I mean, so many talks like that.
So it means that we need to intensify the education and also give out information. And parents need to play a part in getting their kids to understand the stake, the situation in which we are. Let me bring in Philippa. you have expressed disappointment about the fact that the kids were not wearing face masks when they were going to school. What do you intend to do at your level to enforce the wearing of face masks and also, I mean, the general adherence to the COVID protocols?
You see, Aisha, is a bit of a challenge. I had information that this morning, a particular school had to ask the children to go back home and to be in a mask before they can be on the school compound. Let me also state that irrespective of the fact that some parents do not have much education about COVID, at least everybody is aware that there is a pandemic, there is a killer disease around, and some parents are scared. So even if you do not know COVID, you know there is a killer disease around, and in the new normal, as part of our dressing, we have to put on masks. And so as guardians, as parents, as citizens, stakeholders in education, we have to make sure that we observe all the protocols. And that is for our own good. Once I'm in a mask, I protect myself and I protect you. The doctor made a statement that if there is somebody with you or by you who is not wearing a mask, you have to tell the person to put on the mask before he or she talks to you. And that is exactly what we have to do. We have to be one another's keeper. All of us are in it together. We have to make sure we are safe, and wherever we are, the environment is so safe and secured or whatever for all of us.
So are you assuring us that the teachers will do their best to ensure the kids are safe in school? We will do our best,
but how many hours do the children spend in the schools? We will do our best, but if they get back to the house and parents tell them, because it is taking a different dimension, some religious believers feel that there is nothing like COVID. You understand that? And so if at the school level we do our part, they get back to the house and some parents say, oh, there is nothing like COVID. Once you come back from school, just pray and everything is done. These are challenges. At the end of the day, we may not be able to achieve.
And I think you should address some of these things at the PTA. You can invite the parents, because I think it's something that both teachers and parents
will do it at the
must
community
do
levels.
together.
We have information systems, information centers, and all that. We have been doing.
They must also play their part. I'm grateful. Professor Gordon Awindare is West African Center. He is a director for the West African Center for Cell Biology. Dr. John Amuesi is a public health specialist with KCCR and KNUST. Philippa Larson, president of NAT, and Salifu Dabri is a concerned parent. I'm grateful that you were able to join us. My name is Aisha Ibrahim. Enjoy the rest of our programs.